we start, because it looks like it's going to be a big class. Welcome. My name is Ken. I'm the owner of the garden center. My wife is downstairs. Her name is Lisa. She works here. You'll actually see my daughter working here today. She's down as a in-store manager. And then quite often, you'll see 4 family members working here because our dog, Vincent, comes in often with us. So there's 4 of us that still work in the business. Harold Waters started the business back in 1962. Harold Waters, the connection there is, that's my father-in-law. So Lisa grew up in the family business and just grew up playing on bags. And then back then we had a floral shop. She had floral stuff. We had pet stores and feed stores and landscape companies. And still you couldn't make it back in the 60s and 70s. Harold still would go over to the river, Bullhead City, and work on ranches and harvest native plants back in the winter. So that's what it took. We've grown up since then. Most of it's been good. At least business-wise, we can now focus on our passion, which is we've always loved retail. It's like a heroin rush. It's just like, to open up every day, every weekend, all those plants, it's just like Christmas all over. Every weekend is like Christmas, and then you get to show them off and talk about this.
Someone's sitting
great
there.
about them to your friends, and then reload for the next weekend. It's like a rush every weekend. But today we're talking about vegetables, herbs. We're into that season where you're starting to plan and plant your vegetable gardens. Now, let me just tell you the demarcation line. Anyone know what the planting date is for most of your summer plants? We use Mother's Day. Mother's Day is that demarcation line. Now we've been tracking the last frost date for 100 years. 100 years of data. And it comes into May 9th. That is the date. Okay? If you're in the Prescott Valley out in 69, we got some mayor folks here. Maybe it's the last week of April. If you're up in the Highland Pines and Ridgelines, maybe it's May 15th. But the averages were all about the same. Mother's Day is kind of when you get that last frost date. Now the funny thing about averages is it's never on the average. It's always either before or after. So 150 of those years it was middle of May it frosted, last frost. The other 50 years is end of April. It looks like you can forecast thinking it's maybe the last frost is done. If you're planting now, just be aware, have your sheets, have your boxes, have your things ready to go, because all it takes is one last freak storm and your basil is toast. I mean, it's just gone. There's nothing you can do. Tomatoes, the tops will get nipped. The eggplants do not like cold. They don't just like frost, they don't like cold. So just be aware. I'm going to start planting my own gardens this weekend, but I'm not going to commit all the way. I've got radio shows. I write a garden column every week. I mean, gardening, let's face it, half of this is about bragging rights. You want to get in going, in the month of July, you pick your first tomato going, oh man, going up to church, your peanut club, or your golf buddies. You go, wow, I just picked my first tomato and was it ever good? Oh. How are your tomatoes doing? You just want that bragging rights. And I want to be able to get on the radio and go, I picked my first one. And so I always plant a few large ones first, just so I could cheat the season by about 6 weeks. And so I'll go out now. I took one of these home last night. I'm going to go plant this weekend. I'm going to take it out of this bucket, put it in a big pot, and just force it because it's already starting to pollinate and set fruits. And now I can start, it's bragging rights. It's just all about, I'm doing really good. How are you doing? So those of you that start by seed, you'll do that for a couple seasons and then you move to plants. So what you'll find is, with tomatoes specifically, a couple key tips. Stay away from the large tomatoes. This is just School of Hard Knocks. My name's Ken. I'm your friend. We're just talking over the back fence, and here's some things that have worked for me over the years, decades. Your big, brandy wines, beef steak, anything that says big or beef. The big slicers your grandparents used to, one slice and a tomato sandwich, and oh, my mouth's watering thinking about it. We are famous for, it's coming down to October. Our first frost is typically about Halloween. And so you want to watch and pick things off by then. And you haven't picked one tomato yet. The vine is loaded with big green tomatoes, but not one has been picked. We're notorious for that. It's better to go with medium-sized tomatoes. Celebrities, champions, early girls, anything that's middle-sized or smaller. Your cherries, sweet 100s, yellow pears, those are better choices for the mountains because they produce faster. It's a shorter-term crop. What happens is at this altitude, yes, it's bright and sunny during the day, but then it cools off at night. So the plant shuts down. It doesn't grow like it would in a warmer climate. I mean, it makes it really pleasant to open the window and sleep at night, even in June. But your tomatoes and your cucumbers and those things don't like that. And so you'll find you'll do better if you have a smaller fruit because it'll produce faster. Just try it. Those of you that have greenhouses or hot houses, I mean, that's just cheating. That's just not even right. But the rules are off for you all. But the rest of us normal human beings, we need to plant in the gardens and be outdoors, the elements. I grow a lot of pots and a lot of raised beds. Pretty much all of my gardens are in containers or they're raised beds. I'm up in Eagle Ridge on the North Slope. It's the hardest gardening I have ever done. I tried in the ground for a while and I finally said, that is it. I'm a gardener, I'm not struggling this much. And so I'm on a slope like this, and so on the downhill side I put retaining block, you know, the concrete, not cinder blocks, they're so 1970s. I took some nice paver, you know, retaining block, stacked them up, and then I backfill behind it so I've got good soil. So basically my gardens are just raised beds going down this hillside, so I can garden easier. What I do is I'll plant my tomatoes in the raised beds one year. The next year I'll plant them in my pots. Now I put my peppers over there and I just rotate the crops. And I do square foot gardening, a very high density, lots of production off of these beds. It is important to change up your plant locations. Don't plant your tomatoes in the same place every season. We got a virus called Vertinella wilt where the tomato will start to curl up. And the insects and the birds kind of spread this from tomato plant to tomato plant. So it can just come out of the blue at you. Well, that virus stays in the soil and it comes back at you. It lives there all winter, comes back onto your plants the next year. And so if you keep planting tomatoes in the same spot, eventually you're going to have where you can't plant tomatoes in that spot. If you simply rotate your crops, you won't have that issue. That virus needs to have a host every season. You put peppers in there, they don't care about that virus. It only goes after the tomatoes and potatoes, a few other things, but kind of rotate your crops. Petunias, there's a virus that gets on petunias. Once it gets in that soil, you will never be able to grow petunias again in that spot unless you take the soil out and replace it. And I know a place where you can buy a lot of soil and petunias, but for my friends, I'd rather just have you have easier gardens. So rotate, having fun with it. I don't plant petunias in the same soil every year. I'll put geraniums in or zinnias or something else. I'll try to change it up. Plus, it's just fun to change up your garden. That's a little bit of advice I can tell you. I do a lot of container gardens. I brought a pot for you. Don't think of it as the color. I wanted to show you as the size. This would be the minimum size I would grow a tomato, peppers, that kind of stuff. They're fairly deep-rooted plants, and so you want at least this much. I go with larger than this because I want fudge factor. I want to be able to travel, go see the grandkids, and not worry about the irrigation didn't run for a day and the things vaporized on me. The more soil you have, the easier the gardening because it's more fun. It's a sponge. That soil is like a big retaining sponge for fertilizer and water. So this will be the minimum though. It's about maybe 14 inches by 14. I'm doing 20, 24s, I mean big pots.
You said about 5 gallons?
That's probably 10 gallons if you're doing gallon size. My prettiest pot, one that gets always commented on, it's a square pot, big red, oxblood red. It's beautiful. The pot is beautiful. And it's about this big and about this tall. And I love planting 4 peppers in each corner. And then I'll put things like this white stream lobelia in between them. I mean, it's way overplanted. I mean, grossly overplanted. But it's not about, sometimes gardening is about the art. It's not just, it's about how it looks, not just how it produces. And so to see peppers are rather pretty plants, I mean, that's just a beautiful plant. Put a few peppers on there, it's just pretty. Looks ornamental. Looks like a Christmas tree. But when you do this, it does 2 things. One, everyone that comes over to your backyard goes, ooh, you're a really good gardener. But no, I just put this with that. That's not, anyone could do that. But this is a pollinator. It draws the things that pollinate your plants. It draws them in. So this is lobelia. I find that any blue flower, yellow flowers, they just draw the bees and the moths, the pollinating flies. It brings them in so they help pollinate your plants. This is really important for things like squash, pumpkins. I think some things are just hard to pollinate. And so there is a problem with bees. It looks like the native bee count is starting to go back up. Commercial bees are still collapsing. They have not recovered yet. But most of us are dealing with natural occurring bees, hives out in the forest. Those guys look like they're recovering, but still there's not enough of them to pollinate some of your plants. So some of you are out there with Q-tips and trying to dab, each flower, trying to get them to pollinate your pumpkins or your zucchinis or whatever. Put a few key flowers in. It really takes the edge off. Okay? That's one trick I do. Second, we have a problem with the mountains. It's because our water is so crazy alkaline. The pH is really high. Those of you that have pools and spas, you're always checking the pH. You don't want it to be acidic, or you get in the hot tub, and when you get done, you feel like your skin wants to crawl off of your body. Get too alkaline, the same thing happens. You want this sweet spot called neutral. Our water is not neutral, and we're all dealing with the same water. We're dealing with groundwater. Every city pokes a hole in the ground, they pump it out, put it in big tanks, and they deliver it to you after chlorinated. The pH is really high because most of that water is coming up through volcanic ash. So Thumb Butte is an old volcano core. Virtually every hilltop you see around here is an old volcano. All that ash has settled down in the valleys, and now that water has filled up the valleys, and we're pumping our water up through that. Ash is extremely alkaline. So if anything, you want to always try to make your soil more acidic. For the love of gardening, do not listen to anything coming from Chicago, Boston, over to DC. All that garden info, that is not for us, that is for them. Now they'll tell you to add lime to your soil. It sweetens the soil. Have you heard that? Don't do that to your soil, or you will kill everything. You'll vaporize, you'll kill the soil. Nothing will grow there again. Trust me, it's a school of hard knocks. I made that mistake. It took me years to recover. And that also, never add ash from your barbecue pits, your fireplace, your grills. Don't add that. You've got enough ash in your soil already that naturally occurs. You've got too much. So ash is extremely alkaline. It'll bump that pH up to where you can't bring it back down. If anything, we're adding sulfur. We're adding the opposite of lime. We're adding soil sulfur, makes your soil more acidic. So that's what we're trying to do more of than raise it up. Second, because of that alkalinity, it locks up a lot of the minerals. It feels kind of weird. I got this around a theater thing, and this post is right here. You poor folks over there. Hi, my name's Ken. I'm trying to move back and forth so you don't. This is like the suck zones. Maybe you can get a little less suck zone. We have a problem where it locks up the minerals and it locks up the calcium. This is a real problem. So it'll cause, where the blossom was touching the fruit and it pollinated, it'll cause blossom end rot. We're notorious for this. It's where that end of the tomato rots off, or peppers, gets on squash, it shows up on your squash, any kind of squash it shows up on. That's always a calcium deficiency, always. And one thing that causes that is because the pH is so high, we don't have enough calcium, and all of a sudden you get this blossom end rot. It happens often to us. It's not just you, it's all of us get that. So here's what I do in my own gardens. When I'm getting my soils ready, I'm turning my raised beds, to 1 shovel depth. I'm adding some, like 2-inch layer of compost or manure or mulch. I'm doing all the stuff the book says. I'll till it down to 1 shovel depth. But before I turn it in, I'm adding all-purpose plant food. This is the main ingredient in this is cottonseed meal, something we put together for us. It's a 744 all-natural food. I'm putting this into that top layer, and I'm trying to get it where the soil is. So I'm trying to turn it in, just because I'm trying to save steps. I'm the laziest gardener you'll ever meet. I want to combine steps whenever possible. This is also slow release natural foods, break down very slowly. So now you put this in the ground, it's going to feed those plants for the next 3 months. Whereas if you put a chemical base, ammonium sulfate or something like that, it breaks down so fast. Most of it flushes through the soil, and the plant doesn't even pick it up. It just flushes through. This stays there at the roots, the plants can pick it up better. While I'm doing that, I'm also adding calcium nitrate. This is the easiest, fastest form of calcium that plant can absorb. This is 19% calcium. A lot of your books will say use bone meal. Bone meal breaks down 0-10-0, breaks down, adds phosphorus and adds calcium. The problem with bone meal is basically crushed up chicken bones, is what it really is. Bone takes forever to break down. You're putting it in the ground now, really for next year. It's not helping you this year. So you need something that breaks down faster. So I will add some of this where my roots are going to be. I'll turn this in while I'm turning my compost, the food, and this, and I'll turn that in. Then I start plugging my plants. That is a game changer for how the fruit, the blossom end rot stuff. Also, many times when your fruits are off flavored, the melons don't have that richness of flavor, the depth. Your tomatoes are just not quite as sweet as your neighbors. That's almost always a calcium deficiency. Calcium sweetens up that fruit, brings the flavor out. Makes it a little larger, brings the color out. Calcium does a lot for you and I. It does even more for your vegetables. So that's kind of a little trick that'll bring the flavor out, up the size. But mainly, I just want to have you go blossom end rot. It's such a problem. This will mitigate that. So calcium nitrate, okay? I'll go in and about right before the monsoons hit, the rains come in July, into June, July, somewhere in there, usually about the 4th of July, we start to see the rains, or at least the humidity goes up. I'll sprinkle some of this on top of the soil about then too. Just the plants are up pretty big at that point. And I'll just sprinkle some on top of the soil, water it in. And that's kind of I don't do it twice. And then I never have an issue with calcium, blossom end rot. And I just have bigger, sweeter, better. There's nothing worse than a cucumber coming off and it tastes like water. It needs to have that flavor to it. There's something about that. That's why we're growing them, right? For the safety, we don't want to have E. coli coming on our lettuce, coming up across from wherever. You want to know what's on your plants, and you want the flavor. So everything tastes better. Yeah, there you go. It's calcium nitrate. Another little secret I do, this is just my stuff. Hi. Yeah, what's up?
You mentioned manure. Is it okay to use like deodorized cow manure in a vegetable garden?
It is okay. His question is, can you use deodorized cow manure in a vegetable garden? Yes. Ours is called barnyard manure. It's deodorized. It's a mixture of manures. Be careful now. So if you're just getting your soils ready, it is actually possible to front load it so much that it burns the plants, especially little seedlings. So you can get it too hot. Ideally, you want to get your soils ready a month prior to planting. Life is not always ideal though, so you kind of do that. I would say right now you'd be better off cutting back on the manure layer, and I would use more of the compost. Water's mulch. It's organic. It's just compost. And it's not as hot. So you're less likely to burn your seeds, especially if you're sorting your own seedlings. I don't want to be responsible for getting your soil ready. We got the best manure out there, loaded up with fertilizer. You put your seedlings you've been nursing for 8 weeks, put them in the ground, they vapor up, burn. I don't want that responsibility. So that would be kind of watch out. Bigger plants are a little more robust. Small plants are really, little plants, they're looking to die. If you water them too much, you water them too little, you look at them cross-eyed, they're looking to die. So as they get up to size, they're hardier. Okay, so kind of watch that one. Also, tomatoes specifically, I'm sure there's some other stuff. Basil, sometimes they're kind of wimpy. They're they're crybabies. They get dry at all, they just lay down. I'm so hot to dry. They're just big wimps. For those plants that kind of are weepy or more talkative, also tomatoes, if they dry out, the skins will become thick. Because of our dryness or our aridness, the skins will be a little thicker. Or if it's so hot during the day from the morning to day, sometimes the skin will crack on you. So that you'll water it in the morning, it pumps right out, and then in the day it shrivels, and that shrinking and increasing in size causes cracking. What I do is I'll add, where my soil is, when I'm adding each plant, I put in the soil Aqua Boost. These are crystals, polymer crystals. Sometimes you'll see them at the fair, they'll put them in those neckerchiefs where they swell up and they hold moisture around your neck. Well, that's an agricultural product. You could take that and put it in the ground, and it regulates the moisture so the plant doesn't have this. It keeps the moisture around the roots. So we made this one. We actually infused the polymers with mycorrhizal fungi. There's some beneficial things for the soil that cause the plant to root deeper, faster, stronger. And so you can trick the plant to root, and it holds the moisture. That's a game changer for your vegetables, especially things like tomatoes. That's a really important one.
So how much do you use of that?
So our question is, how much of this do you use? This does like hundreds of square feet. This will swell up and hold like this much moisture. So I'll just sprinkle a little bit every time I plant. I get one of these every start of the season.
It's like a
And I sprinkle a little bit, salt and pepper at the bottom of the hole, and I plant it. That's kind of what I do. So I just planted all my petunia flower beds. Every single flower got one of these, because if flowers get dry at all, they shed their flowers. Well, that's not why I planted flowers. I want them to be consistent so they'll bloom more, not less. Aqua Boost. And you can come up and take a look at it. I'll just keep these on the table. Yeah. Sure. So she's talking, what do you think? She's asking my opinion. I love it when women ask my opinion. Thank you. I don't get that at home enough. I raised 3 daughters and been married a long time, and I never miss that question. Self-watering pots, like earth boxes, that kind of stuff. In fact, I create a lot of my own self-watering pots. You know how you do that? Just put a saucer underneath it and water until the water comes out. Put the saucer in the bottom. That's a self-watering pot. So as the plant dries out, it wicks that water back up into the soil, as long as there's no soil change. If you hear all kinds of crazy stuff on the internet. Put Coke cans on the bottom to lighten the weight, or put styrofoam peanuts. Who would put styrofoam in your soil, especially edibles? That stuff breaks down, you get to eat it later. Yay. Don't do that. I like soil right to the bottom, and then I'll put a saucer underneath it so it wicks it back through. Water does not go through different soil bands. It stays, it gets stuck right there. But if it's the same potting soil all the way through, it'll wick right back up. Self-watering pots in Arizona are like magic. They're really great. Regulates the soil. Not all of us can have self-watering pots. Some of us are in the ground. That's where the Aqua Boost. I created that years ago to help take the edge off. Every time we plant for you, that goes in every tree, every shrub. We always add Aqua Boost because it increases roots. It starts roots faster. But it also really works for mainly the tomatoes that crack or the skins get thick. It'll help you with some of that. It'll keep your pumpkins, your watermelons and melons, it'll keep them larger, because if they get hot at all, they get any kind of dryness, they'll take the moisture from the fruit to keep the plant alive. You don't want that. You want them focused on juice those vegetables, juice the watermelon, get the cantaloupes in there. Just really focus on pushing the fruit and the sweetness into your vegetables and fruits. Okay. All right. You know my soapbox. I just love it. Yeah. Here we go. I brought this for you right here. See the strawberries? Do you see it? Purely a tease. That's it. Strawberries do great here. That's it. I just saw that one. Oh, neat. That's kind of neat. I want to eat that right now. I'm like, 2 more days.
What's your favorite way to plant strawberries?
My favorite way to plant strawberries, you could chuck this bucket on the ground, it would start to run off and just run. I planted my strawberry patch, just maybe from here to there. It's a pretty big patch, produces really heavy. I hardly do anything with it. I fertilize it with the all-purpose food. That's the main thing I do with that. But they send off runners and touch, they'll form another plant. Runners, touch, form another plant. Just need a few in there and they'll just naturally start growing. In fact, it becomes almost a problem because they start to become weeds. They start going where they shouldn't go, like in your neighbor's yard, and then they start complaining. But strawberries do really, really well. At this altitude, we don't get the diseases on them like the South does or more humid places. They're just really good producers. I think we need to use them more for ground covers. Less vinca, periwinkle, and more strawberries because they just produce. Yes?
Do gophers eat those, the roots? Do gophers eat the roots?
Oh, do gophers eat everything. Everything.
Do you have to put fire underneath the strawberry plant?
Squirrels can go for them. I don't know. Generally, strawberries animals aren't as interested in them. They're low to the ground. The fruit's generally hidden underneath. And strawberries have they've got a textured stem. And when the animals eat that foliage, those stems get stuck in their throat. So generally they'll leave this alone. Not everyone, so I never guarantee for anyone, because your herd may not have read the book yet. So generally speaking, that's the case. The only true way to keep gophers out is to kill them. You got to get brutal. You got to go marine style. Shock and awe. Go after them. Or you have raised beds and you've got fabric underneath an inch or smaller. Can't be 2 inches. They'll go right through it. But 1 inch, generally chicken wire, they won't go through. Or 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch string, they won't go through. Okay, but it's got to be substantial. Or I can show you I've got a whole class on just worming. So I'll give you a quick story. I'm a pumpkin grower. I'm salsa grower, pumpkins, giant pumpkins, like big 100-pound pumpkins. That's my thing. They're good for nothing. You can't eat them. You can't produce them. They're good only for showmanship. That's it. You pick it up, you put it in a wheelbarrow, you can barely lift it, you roll up the front door, and every kid that comes over to trick or treat is like awestruck. All your neighbors are like awestruck, and you grew this huge pumpkin. And so what I do is I'll plant my gardens, and then every little corner, if I got something on the edge of the raised bed, I'll just plug a giant pumpkin. And I'll train it to go out into the yard like that. It almost looks like Jurassic Park when it gets done. It is, these tendrils are 10 feet long. They're huge. Leaves like this. And I grew a pumpkin like this. It was pretty magnificent. It was kind of end of July, but this is going to be a beauty, the biggest one I've ever grown. And so I brought a 1/4 pallet home to set this fruit on so it wouldn't rot. So I bring it up going, hasn't grown for a couple weeks. I'll just lift it off the ground. I'll nurture it along. I picked it up, and there was a hole in the fruit about this big, and the pack rats had gone into the pumpkin and eaten the entire. Not one seed was left. The entire inside was reamed out.
How do you know it was a pack?
Because I just said pack rats. I know pack rats. Anyway, I went after them. I actually created a trap line. So I've got three rat traps in the backyard. One's by the grill, because they wanted to build a nest in my grill. One's by the hot tub, because they have eaten through the hot tub and gotten into the insulation. $10,000 hot tub, eating them. That's not going to happen in my world. There's going to be repercussions to you and your kin. And then where the furniture pads are, they love to get into where the bin where you keep the furniture for the patio. So I've got 3 of them. Here, the book always says put peanut butter in there. Irresistible. They must go into the trap if you put pumpkin seeds. So you go down to Sprouts and just get a little bit of pumpkin seeds in there, and literally once a week I get something. Every week. Every single week. This last week was a pack rat. The week before it was a vole, a little field mouse. So it's just every week is something. And so I keep up with them so I don't, because I'm not going to lose another pumpkin. It's the end of July, 1st of August, there's no way to recover. I might have had a few little pumpkins, but there's no way to get this big when you're getting halfway through the season. So I just curse pack rats now. So anyway, I can go all deep on that if you want. Javelinas?
Yes.
So javelinas are tough. They're pigs. They come and root stuff up. They'll eat anything. I mean, they'll ring the doorbell, come inside for dinner if you let them. What I do in the backyard in our subdivision, you're allowed to have fences in the back. We've got a dog, so we fence the back, cedar fence. It's pretty. It's secret garden stuff. Feels good. I just deal with things that can go over or under the fence. That's pack rats and voles. A squirrel every once in a while. The front yard is a free-for-all. You're not allowed to have fences in our subdivision. Is not allowed to have fences in the front yard, which I like. So I'm going, okay, and our front, I'm a flower grower basically, and so my neighbor has a lawn, and our flowers, they had this, it's a highway. Every night this pack of javelina would come through. So what I did is, took my daughter out, we got some 24-inch pieces of rebar. During the day, we just hammer those in the ground, kind of through the gardens. I didn't enclose the garden, I just went through it. And then at night, we snuck out. And then we hung this 12-volt wire through so no one would see. We put the insulators on the rebar. They make an insulator that goes in the rebar. And then I spray painted. I went all camo on them. So I got green and brown paint because I don't want to see yellow. I don't want to see yellow in my gardens. So I spray painted the wire, spray painted the rebar. So it's about 1 foot off the ground, this wire. And then for this herd, just to make sure they got the point, I hung a piece of aluminum foil over the wire, and then I put peanut butter underneath the aluminum foil, just touching the wire. I don't know what happened, but the lead boar must have hit that, because the next morning there was wire, not one piece was left. All of it was on the ground, all over the yard. And so I set it back up, put it back on the insulators, you just quickly ran it through. And then I didn't put any peanut butter after that, and I haven't seen a javelina since. But you have to fence it somehow. You've got to protect it because everything loves lettuce. Everything loves lettuce. Birds, quail love lettuce. Everything. I'm planting this year. I always try to look for. This is a red mustard. So I'm gonna use this for salads and stuff. I always try to look for myself. I always try to look for bright, dark, colors. So reds, blues. I like to look for foliage that has red colors. It's antioxidant. It's anti-cancer fighting stuff. It's a real health benefit. And you cannot find this even at the most organic store. This is not at the farmer's market. You have to grow it yourself. And so I want to put this out there and just grow that. Well, everything likes to eat this. So I'll have it in the back where the dogs are, and it's fenced. Now you've got my pack rats will eat it, but I'll have got them figured out. So now I can grow things. And you might have to do the same thing. You might have to fence an area out for your gardens as well. One thing they don't eat, no animal eats herbs. For some reason, I'll spread this around. This is an orange mint. Now we've got spearmint and peppermint, the regular mints. I mean, mojitos are great, but this is orange mint. Just rub the foliage, smell it, and then pass it to a friend. Like gardener next to you. Mints are great. They're best grown next in a pot, because mint is like a weed, it will take over. So I grow mint in containers or just underneath where the hose bib is. With the hose, I'll just, right there, I'll grow a little bit of mint because it gets some water and then it's dry as a bone. I'll grow it right next to the driveway. I love to grow chocolate mint. I love the fragrance of chocolate mint. I grow it right by the driveway where all the car gunk gathers, things on your tires. everything down your driveway, all the drainage goes into this one bed. And I don't eat this mint, but it's pretty, easy to grow, and it cleans up all that junk that can go down to my neighbors and down the drinking water. I want to make sure I control that. And then when it gets out of control, I just take the truck and drive over it a few times and go, get back in your place. And so then it gets crushed and it goes back. So mint is that aggressive. You want to kind of watch that one, okay? And I'm getting a lot of hands here. I'll go here because you've been raising it so patiently, yes?
What do you think of those felt things with the pockets where you can put them out on the wall?
Gotcha. So wall gardens. So she's talking about they make a planter. You put it on a wall. You plant in the pockets. Okay. And sometimes some of them have a water system that your water once and goes through. I don't know what I think. They're kind of hard to grow in because we're so dry. We're about to go, 90-degree weather, 10% humidity, and a prevailing southwest wind. Until the rains come in July, it'll be bone dry, and things just dry out fast. So the smaller the pocket, the smaller the container, the smaller the thing, the faster it dries out. So you could do aqua boost, you can play with. Now I never tell gardeners what they can or cannot do. You never do that. They will always prove you wrong. They'll find a way to make it grow. And so, but generally speaking, it's harder. The smaller the soil, the harder it is.
So I have a 3-foot fence with my raised flower bed right in front of it.
Yeah.
And I live next to the forest. How tall a fence do I need to put up to? I know the deer can hop over my 3-foot fence.
Yeah, I got the answer. I got
But I'm on a ditch, so there's no running start to go over a 5-foot fence or a 6-foot
So
fence.
she's next to the forest. We all live kind of close to the forest, or that dry wash.
Yeah.
We go through the neighborhood as a highway through the neighborhood through this dry wash. She's got a 3-foot fence around her flower gardens. She's wondering, is that high enough?
No, I know it's not high enough. I want to know how tall.
How high does it need to be?
And what size fencing?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to block it off because I want to be able to see the creek.
6 foot.
6 foot?
6 foot. Deer won't hop 6 foot.
Inch squares?
Oh no, 6 foot high.
Yeah.
By almost doesn't matter the size for deer
So,
and javelina.
Any type
I
of...
have seen a rabbit run with a dog chasing it at full speed. It ran through a chain link fence like it was nothing. Literally, it just went full right through, full speed, like it was nothing. Full grown rabbit. I was impressed. So you got to go lower, smaller than 2 inch. So they make something called a field fence. It starts real small at the top, and then it kind of gets spaces out larger to like 4-inch squares at the top. That's generally what we'll use for like chain link, keep things out. Rabbits, raccoons can climb anything. We have porcupines. I didn't mean to go too far down this, but you've got porcupines, skunks, raccoons, gophers, deer, javelina, and squirrels, and some chipmunks. That's kind of the same thing as a squirrel, and antelope. More antelope are coming into the outer perimeters. So watch for those things, and look for the forthcoming class on gardening with the animals. So that'd be I can go an hour on just that, but I don't want to go too far. But 6 foot for your answer.
Okay.
Deer don't seem to leap over that. I had a Skull Valley, we had elk and deer. They didn't leap over it because there's no health insurance out in the forest.
Yeah.
They're afraid of breaking a leg. If they jump and don't make it, and they get hurt, it's over. That's it. Mountain lion bait tonight. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're getting into the dry season. How often to water?
Good. Let's cover watering. So how often to water? Water in the morning, especially vegetables, herbs. You want to water before you pick them. So I'm trying to water 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I want my plants to be hydrated as you go into the heat of the day. Okay, I don't want to water midday, just because it's not very efficient. And sometimes the sun can get so intense it can burn, it can do some damage. Here's the mistake people make, especially you poor folks I mean, welcome to God's country. I don't know why you lived in Phoenix, 10 miles from the sun, or Tucson, or Palm Springs. Down there, they tell you water at midnight. Oh, it'll be better, more efficient. Well, it's still 110 degrees at midnight down there. You can water at that time and things dry out. Up here in God's country, it cools off. And so if you have your plants wet, as we go into the evening, you are doomed. You're going to get powdery mildew, spotting, leaf spots, all kinds of viral stuff will happen because that plant, it's basically athlete's foot of the foliage. That will happen because it stays too wet too long through the evening because it cools off and it doesn't dry out. You want your plants to go into the evening dry, trust me. Although, I still have a kid to get through grad school, so I can help you with that. I'll make a boatload of money off of you with all kinds of fancy, copper sulfates and stuff. But for my friends, I'd rather you just not have that issue and just water real early in the morning and not have that. But I see it all the time. Phoenix tells you water in the night, in the evening. Up here you don't do that. Okay, so early morning. Water, I'd say before 8 o'clock in the morning is best. You're probably going to water, right now I'm watering about once a week. In my pots, that's been enough, but it's been cold. So as we start to warm up, I'll probably bump it now because it's 80 degrees. Looks like we're in the 70s for a bit, which is ideal. I'll probably water every third day. I don't know. I love putting a test victim out there. Pansies. They are the most talkative plant out there. They get cold, they lay down. They get hot, they lay down. They get dry, they just love to whine and complain. So I'll look at my pansies and go, oh, if they're laying down and go, okay, it's time to, that means, oh, the ground dried up. Oh, let's water. So I use it as a monitor to help know when is the ground dried out. And I think you can do the same thing, what to look for.
So how long do you water?
How long do I water? I've got a whole class on nothing but irrigation. We just had it 2 weeks ago. We went for an hour and a half on nothing but this. Generally speaking, you want to water for my pots. You want to water until you see water coming out the bottom. Okay, that's how you know for a container. Most of you poor folks from the Midwest, you're not even used to irrigation at all. California used to flood irrigation. You just have this high volume stuff. Here we're doing drip irrigation. The thing's got to run for an hour before you even get one gallon of water. You run it for an hour for 1 gallon. So you need to run it for a long time if you're doing a drip system. So this every day for 5 minutes. With a drip system, you might as well spit on it, walk away, and expect it to live. That's about the equivalent of how much water you got on it. So you need to run it for a while. I can't tell every student here how long to run your system because it'll vary by every single system. But generally speaking, I can say you're not watering long enough, and then you're watering too often. You want to water a lot, push it down the ground, then wait and let it dry out. So most of you are set your system up to water every day for 15 minutes. So you're giving your plants literally a pint of water every day, and you've got these real shallow rooted plants. And we don't like shallow people. For sure, we don't like shallow rooted plants. And so the only way to get the plants to root deeper is you push that water deeper so it goes for the water. And we can have a sidebar on that. Potatoes. Let me just cover potatoes. You do not want to use potatoes from the grocery store. They spray them, dip them. They're trying to inhibit the growth. They don't want the eyes to start forming. As soon as that eye starts growing, you're not going to buy that one. You're just going to pass. And so they throw it away. That's perfect for us. So we want organic potatoes. And I can say that you'll get better production off of red potatoes. At this elevation, the red ones seem to do better. I don't know why. We've got Yukon Golds. We got 4 or 5 varieties down there. Here's how I grow them. I grow potatoes so I can connect with my grandkids. It is awe-inspiring. Gardening is a way to connect with the next generation. My little 7-year-old grandson, they call him Garden Guy Jr. because we love hanging around the garden center. We get on the forklift, we move pallets around. He thinks it's a power rush. And then, come about late summer, early fall, I'm growing these potatoes in a pot, big grower's pot, and I'll cut them up so I got 1 or 2 eyes. If it's small enough, I'll just put 1, 2 or 3 of these in the bottom of the pot. And here's the thing with potatoes. As this eye grows, then you backfill it. You backfill it slowly. If you put too much soil over top of this eye too soon, it will suffocate the vine. So the longer this vine is, this potato vine, the more potatoes you're going to form. So potatoes come off of this vine. That's why farmers grow a ditch. They actually dig a ditch, plant the potato, and they'll backfill it as it grows, and they'll finally get on a mound. And so they're trying to increase the harvest. Here's the magic with kids. It's like, it's just so great. With the pot, when I think I'm going to harvest them, the grandkids are coming over. They go, Pops, can we go out and pick something? I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Potatoes. And so I'll take the pot and I just turn it upside down, and you just have like 3 dozen potatoes right there before your eyes. It's like an Easter egg hunt in November. It's so easy to grow. And I'll just put a drip emitter where my pots are. I'll just throw another emitter on that. It just grows a lot of potatoes. And we just have fun doing that. They came over in January. And my little 4-year-old grandson goes, Pop, can we go pick stuff? I'm going, son, it's January. There's nothing out there. What are you talking about? Goes, well, come on. I did have some beets. So I took some beets. We pulled the beets out of the ground. He goes, oh, that's great. So I think there's a way. There's a generational connection. Gardening helps to bring us all together, but it really brings kids into the fold. And millennials get this. They're the ones driving the reoccurrence of vegetable growing your own. Farmers markets are coming online because I think the millennials want to grow their own. They want to know where their food's coming from, and they're the ones with the kids right now. And so it's so easy if you're a grandparent. This is like a gateway drug to gardening. This is like potatoes are so easy. All right, where are we going? Let's answer a few more questions up front. Yes.
Hi. Thanks for the class.
Sure.
I have a real problem growing vegetables. I'm from the Midwest and how deep should you have your box for like tomatoes?
Okay, good question. So I'm going to repeat it. Hold on. So she's from the Midwest, so instantly you know, oh, poor thing. She's never going to grow things like she did in the Midwest. So I feel your pain. And then how deep should tomatoes be when you plant them? Here's a quick secret on tomatoes. I brought one that I kind of look for. It's a Better Boy. There's a nice medium-sized fruit, red, heavy producer. What I'm looking for on a tomato when I do this, in fact, let's just do this. Let's just kind of take this out, and I'll butcher. This is going to be painful for some of you, but really, I'll take this home and plant it. What I would do is I would prune all of these things off down low. I'd go up to probably, that one's got to go. I'd probably go up to about maybe even here. So what I'm doing, I'm looking for a vine that is a pretty sturdy vine. And all of these hairs you see up and down the stem, those will all turn into roots. So the deeper you plant this, the better. So the more soil, the better. That's why this pot really isn't quite, I can't lift that with one hand. I used to be able to, but now I can't. What does that mean? I'd go even a little bit deeper than that, but I'd plant that like this. And now what I've got is more moisture. So it takes a lot longer for this much soil to dry out than this much. And I get more root production, which means I'll get more fruit production. Some of you do not have this much soil. I realize. Some of you only have like this, some of you have no soil. I've actually taken this and leaned it in the ground. I planted it like this and then bent this up. I just want this in the ground. And so it will start rooting and start forming a larger tomato plant. So that's another reason I like raised beds and pots. I can plant them really deep and I'll get better production. It works for your bigger plants. Potatoes, tomatoes, squash seems to appreciate. Carrots, you need a lot of soil. I find that with my carrots, just while I'm on it, don't grow the real deep-rooted carrots you've grown in the Midwest. We don't have the soil. I find the shorter baby carrots do better, produce very heavy very sweet. But I find the big ones just don't go down. They get misformed. They just don't produce. Smaller ones do better. Same thing with watermelons. Don't grow the great big watermelon. It just doesn't have enough season. Grow the baby ones and you get better production. Just some school hard knocks. Again, I don't tell gardeners what you can or cannot do. These are just some things that have worked well in my gardens that seem to will play out for you. Yeah.
Yeah, last year we got a fungus in our raised garden. It made the leaves turn yellow, but
Yeah.
it didn't affect the fruit.
Okay. On what kind of fruit? Tomatoes or what?
Tomatoes.
Tomatoes?
And is there something we should, I got rid of the top 2 layers of soil, top 2 inches of soil.
Yeah.
But is there something else we should put in?
So he had a tomato plant. It turned yellow. He got a virus, started turning yellow, and it had the fruit was okay, but just the plant looked terrible. So tomatoes want to get a disease and they want to die. Their goal in life is to get a disease and die. So what I do myself, I'll plant it deep like I just said. As it grows, I never allow foliage. I get a cage. I got big beefy cages. I actually spray paint the cages so they're pretty. I mean, I don't know, galvanized just doesn't do it for me. And I'm a flower guy. I'm an artist. I like the colors. So I'll spray paint it, get all artistic with it. I get really creative with it. I had a St. Francis statue. His head broke off. Last year I stuck a stick in it. I got St. Francis' head just free floating. It's kind of spooky at night with the lighting, but it was really funky. Everyone commented on it. It's really cool. So I tend to do that. I mix art with my vegetables, with my flowers. What I do with the vegetable there, tomatoes, I never allow tomato foliage to touch the ground. Especially as we get all of our rains at once, really July, August, first part of September, that rain comes down, splashes up, and that's what causes the disease. I try to keep it clean. Any foliage that starts to get any kind of spotting, I am extremely aggressive. I pick it off so it won't spread that quickly. And still I get some of that happening. The yellowing I get, is it possibly a lack of nutrients? Maybe, I don't know. I'd have to look at it. It sounds like you honed it into, I've got a virus of some sort.
A fungus, I think.
There's a fungus, very common. So there's some sprays, copper fungicide, I can keep it organic. Let's hope you cleaned up, you got rid of the soil, because it'll come back from the soil. And don't let any foliage touch the soil. Keep it cleaned up, keep things pinned up, growing up, and I think you'll have less issues. And you know what to look for now. Okay? What else was going to cover? Let me make sure I got this before, because we could go all day. I'm sure we can go all day. You're awfully pushy in the front row. Just because you're in the front row does not mean you get to take over the show. Go ahead.
You're selling the tomatoes in the cages, so are
Yeah.
they supposed to stay in the cage?
So, okay, good question. Fair. That's a fair question. So we're selling tomatoes in cages. Are they supposed to stay like this? They can stay like this. I do not keep mine like this. I take this, pop this off, and I put it in the ground. So it looks like when you come over, you go, oh, he got early. He started in March. Wow, he's a good gardener. I now put a bigger cage. What we're doing with this is we're trying to introduce more dwarf varieties of tomatoes. This is called chocolate. No, this is a yellow dwarf. Oh, this is a yellow one. I took home the chocolate one yesterday. There's a mahogany-looking tomato. It's going to melt in my mouth. I just can't wait. Oh my gosh. But it's a dwarf. It only gets up about this high. So now you can grow it in pots. I grow this by my front door in a big pot with a pretty cage. And everyone comments on it because a tomato plant with tomatoes on it, it's like a little mini Christmas tree. It's beautiful. People like it. They love it. I'll underplant some flowers with it, and I mix Swiss chard with my lettuce, with my geraniums. I think it's okay. Some of you older folk, your grandparents did it in a row, and it's like vegetables march through the yard, and that's all you know. But a lot of us are dealing in smaller yards. We don't have the big space, or we don't want to work that hard. I mean, your grandparents had tractors and rototillers. I don't want that. I just want to plant easily. So we're trying to introduce easier plants, but still have the fruits. We're going to specialize in heirlooms. Your old, your German greens, your zebras, all these very old-fashioned vegetables, tomatoes specifically. We're trying to reintroduce more of those because people want to go back. They don't want GMOs bad, genetically modified. They want to go back to the roots. And so we're trying to introduce more of that. Okay, that's just us. Plus, it's my way. Be my nemesis. Can you guess who I just want nothing but ill for? Yeah, big orange box. I mean, they want nothing but ill for them, and they want nothing but ill for me. Okay, big blue box. Lowe's and Depot. We are after each other. I want their market share. They want mine. We physically try to strategize how to go after and take each other's customers. We really do that. I'm going to do it because I can grow heirloom tomatoes, and they can't, and they don't have the expertise to do that. We grow herbs. All of our herbs are non-GMO, all organic. Herbs are basically ugly green things in buckets. Home Depot needs like pretty stuff for instant color. They can't sell an herb. They don't know what lemongrass is. They don't know what an orange mint is, but I do. That's a strength that we can play to as a small guy. We're David against Goliath. Big fruit trees, big trees. Fruit trees have to be about 7 years old before they'll start producing fruit. Well, they have fruit trees, but they're all whips. So their price is better. It's going to be 5 years before you get a fruit, which frustrates you. And I kind of go, that's good. Frustrated gardeners are good. They're going to come here, and all of ours are of fruiting age. So we bring in some that are purposely more mature, because that's a strength we can play into. Plus, fruit trees take a ton of space. Well, they don't have space for that. So there's weaknesses in the marketplace that we fill. There's niches that we go after. We're very, very strategic with it. And that's how we've been in business for 57 years. This will be our 57th. Yeah, thank you very much. But it's by playing to the market, our consumers, what they're asking for. So anyway, that's Soapbox. Thank you for appreciating that, supporting us. Yeah.
I haven't planted yet, and I'm from the Midwest.
Yeah.
But I understand there's a squash bug
Yes.
that's really bad here.
Yeah. Let's go over bugs real quick. So she's from the Midwest. There's half of us are from the Midwest. The other half are from California. Just so you know, okay? In the room, look around. It's either a Californian or a Midwesterner. Actually, Alaska's represented pretty well. Anyone from Hawaii?
New England.
New England, very good. Hey, there you go. So from all over. But insect, Canada, is that what you said? What are you doing down here? Hey, mate. No, I didn't do that right, did I? The Canadian accent just escapes me right now. Anyway, welcome. We're from all over. Insects specifically. How do I deal with insects? What should I look for? Right now, we are seeing thrip and aphids. They're out. They're going to be on your roses. They're going to love Brussels sprouts, lettuce, apples. We've seen them on just a few things. Look for little green bugs. They'll get on the trees. They'll get on look for aphids. Super easy to kill. When you see them, I don't know if I brought the right stuff up here. Triple action. All organic. It's neem oil. Basically, it's neem oil. You organic gardeners that made from a fancy bean. It's oil. You spray the bug. They stop producing eggs, and it kills them slowly. I like insect killers that kill slowly. I want pain, torture, I want quivering, and I want dropping on the ground. That's what I want. And so that's kind of what this does. Very easy. The hard ones are the squash bugs, the blister beetles, the grasshoppers. Grasshoppers will be bad this year. Every time we get a lot of rain in the winter, we get a lot of weeds in the spring, which means we get grasshoppers the size of, you might want to upgrade your shotgun. They're going to be that big. They're going to be huge. The ground will move. It might be biblical proportion. We're thinking Genesis, like clouds coming down. Could be that. I don't know. It can be that bad. I would suggest the end of May, first part of June. You'll know when the time is because the weeds out in the fields they'll be alive. You'll walk across little tiny grasshoppers. They're called fry staples. They're jumping around. That's a leading indicator. When you see that, come talk to us. And we have a product called No-Lo bait, N-O-L-O, No-Lo. It's a bait, it's basically Wheaties, and we laced it with a virus that is very toxic to grasshoppers, only grasshoppers. Doesn't affect your pets, your birds, your husband, nothing, just grasshoppers, just grasshoppers. And crickets, grasshoppers and crickets. So you sprinkle that out near the fence lines, and they're attracted to it, they'll eat it. It doesn't kill them instantly. Again, they get sick to their stomach, they stop eating, which is good, that's all you need, to stop eating. And then grasshoppers are cannibals. So when their buddy dies, there's like 5 others that come in to eat them. So this virus spreads from generation to generation, and any eggs that they lay are also infected. It's the only way to get ahead of this on especially large properties. That's the only, we raised our family in Skull Valley on 10 acres, surrounded by ranch land. You couldn't see any neighbors, it was just us. And the grasshoppers could get really bad. And so we would put the no-go bait, and that really kept them at bay. It is organic, it's safe for chickens. I don't know if I'd put it in the chicken coop, kind of what, but chickens eat everything. So anyway, that's a couple things to watch out for. Look for the class in the summer. We'll have a whole class on nothing but bugs, when the time is right. Right now it's just aphids, and aphids are easy to kill. Okay, let's see. I want to end this in 2 minutes. So I'll take 2 questions from people that haven't asked a question yet. Who else? Here we go. There's one in the back. Haven't asked a question. What do you got? Yeah, there you got it. Yeah. That's a good question. So he's up in the pines, and he's dealing with his filtered shade stuff. So the sun's coming through the pines. So you really want your plants to have 6 hours of sun or more to produce well. Now, sometimes a tree is the ideal place. I love growing tomatoes under a tree. I love growing giant pumpkins under a tree. And here's why. I get all the morning sun from first light at 5 o'clock in the morning till about 11, full sun. Then at midday it gives me a break. Then I get the ending sun at the end of the day. It is like the best stuff ever. And the extra benefit is I've had more years where the hail comes in the summer and shreds my gardens. So I'm just underneath the tree, it softens up all the hail, so my rhubarb is safer, my pumpkins don't get shredded. It kind of helps. So I think if you look in your spot, in your yard, you'll find a couple strategic areas where you could place some things. But you're looking for about 6 hours of sun, not continual, just through the day. 6 hours, you can grow whatever you want. You will grow exceptional lettuce, spinach, kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, all the cool season things. That's like the perfect spot, your partial sun. We have 3 seasons here. We've got spring. We've been planting all spring. That's been kale. Loves snow. The flavor comes out of your lettuce and spinach when it's cold at night. These things are about to bolt. They become bitter or off-flavored. They don't like summer. These are spring plants. We're now shifting from spring to summer. Summer starts, the demarcation line has been Mother's Day. Remember that, you'll hear that. That's the start of summer planting. Things that like the heat. These are things that form a fruit, tomatoes, cucumbers, melons, peppers, you can name them. You know what they are. And then there's a whole other season that most folks are not aware of. My best plantings are in the fall, late summer, fall. I'll go back, and as the tomatoes fade, I'll pull those up and I'll put my kale, lettuce, broccoli, spinach, all the cool season things, I'll plant then, and I will harvest that stuff right through winter. Most winters. We just don't get a harsh winter. So you will have parsley all winter long. You'll have kale all winter long. You'll be harvesting that because it loves the cold. The flavor is better when it's cold. You'll have a dusty, you have 3 inches of snow on the ground. They'll pop up through the snow and go, I'm so happy. They don't like the heat. So you really have 3 windows, and all the novice gardeners and the new gardeners go, oh no, I'm gonna wait till Mother's Day. Well, okay, that's a rookie. They only do summer things. But there's most of the year is mainly cool season stuff. So with that, I will hang out. I know we could keep going for hours. This is what I do all day long for a living, and I love talking gardening. We have an entire staff here. I'll kind of give you the inside scoop. And then I'll let you clap, Marty. You can't go without giving that old actor in me. I gotta have the applause. Gotta have the adrenaline from the crowd. No, not yet. I'll tell you when. You all are a good crowd. Thank you very much. Now where was I going? Oh, trucks. We restock for the weekend. Here's the inside tip. It's not for people online, just for friends. Every Wednesday afternoon or Thursday, we restock the flowers and vegetables.
If you're all set with it, I'll take it.
Probably come on Thursday. Wednesday afternoon, you'll come. They're all in the racks. If the trucker is late, it might not be until Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, we're restocking. We're getting ready for Saturday. Saturday's like this big rush, and by Sunday afternoon, it is gone. They reload, do it again, just so you know the sequence. So the kind of the insider scoop. Thursdays are kind of a key time. Grab it. Also, in a short cycle garden, 4-season climate, when you see it, grab it. It will not be there like an hour later. I'm telling you, it won't be there again. Whether it's a tree, a tomatillo, a tomato, grab it now. Because it literally, all this stuff it gets restocked. The whole thing gets restocked every week. Just so you know, I had more customers coming and going, oh dang it, I saw this yesterday, is it here? Going, I wish, but it's gone. Scented geraniums. We had them 2 days ago, I got none now. We'll get more on Thursday though.